Yo, what's going on, guys? It is Foxy98 here. Welcome back to a brand new video for you guys today here on the channel. Today we're here and we're going to be covering the brand new Red Bull RB16 for you guys today. And also then later on, around about lunchtime-ish when I'm making this video, so around about 1 PM UK time, the Renault car launches as well. So we'll be covering that one. And apparently, there's rumours that it may all potentially have a bit of white on it this year, but we'll wait and see when the car comes out. But I'm doing this video different to the other ones, and I'm doing it in Photoshop. Now, the reason I'm doing it in Photoshop is because, as you can see with the Red Bull RB15 and the Red Bull RB16, it's the same livery. So, yeah, it's all about just seeing the differences on the car. So I thought, rather than just waste my time basically saying what a livery looks like when it's the same, I thought I'd just go through and just spot out the main differences and basically do a game of spot the difference on the Red Bull. So if you guys do enjoy the video, feel free to drop it a like and obviously subscribe to the channel if you're new, because we'll obviously be uploading again later today with the Renault car. And we're going to start by covering all of the spot the differences on the Red Bull. So let's have a look then. So obviously this Red Bull looks like it's either the one from Belgium or Italy potentially, because it's obviously Alex Albon's Red Bull RB15. There's a few things that we're going to note at, and I'm going to go ahead and whack up the zoom a little bit here. This might make the picture a bit blurry, but it's completely fine. And we'll start with the front wing section. So with this front wing, there's a couple of things that were quite interesting, and you'll notice the one piece when we zoom in on it. But first of all, if you have a look at the end plates here, let's drop this down just a little bit so we can have a little better look. There we go. So you can see here on this front wing end plate style, we've sort of got a nice little, pretty much a straight rectangular piece going all the way down here and then switching itself back across. And by using my mouse, it means I can explain what I'm talking about a lot better. With the Red Bull RB16, you can see that how that little piece, it sort of just, you know, it sort of curves downwards and then gets narrower by there, which is quite interesting to spot. And just the small little technical change there with their front wing, which is very interesting. Also then, or should I say the end plate. Also, what's an interesting feature is actually going to be the actual wing itself. So you can see this is what the Red Bull RB15 front wing piece looks like at the top here. You can see how it's pretty much just sort of like a straight line with a little bit of a dip in there. This one, however, curves itself up and then dips in. It's very similar to how the Ferrari and the Alfa did it, but obviously it depends, because obviously you know, Red Bull didn't do that as format last year. They might be doing it this year, but by the looks of it, it's just a slightly different look to their front wing, just to allow the end pieces to curve in. It's very similar to what I think Mercedes adapted that as well at some point in there. An interesting piece then, and it's very interesting to note, in fact, and we're going to zoom in much more for this, is their front nose, which has taken a slight aero twist. So this is the RB15, and I'm talking about what we like to call it in the F1 lands, the Pingu nose. If you don't know what Pingu is, just search it up. It was a childhood classic. But this is their Pingu nose here on the Red Bull RB15, just plain, and it's got a nice nose where it can inhale everything. Move to the RB16 though, and it's taken a complete twist, and it's quite fascinating to see this twist in here. So it's still got its insert nose in there, but it's got a little piece now that sticks out at the front there, and then it's got two little slots in here for air to travel through. I thought it was a fascinating and just a really strange thing actually to look at to start with. But yeah, interesting little tweak there, but a slight change to their nose. So yeah, something to look at and something to be fascinated by. And actually, as you can see, having a look at this piece of the front wing here, it kind of shows that it's not going down the Ferrari route, because the Ferrari route is much more tighter by here, and then it opens out coming into this point. Very small piece, but where this little, what is like this sort of like the camera section sometimes can be for the front wing elements here, this has got two little circular dots in there. This one did have two circular. I didn't even see it the first time around. Never mind. This is why we play Spot the Difference, because it's hard to spot some things. But let's start moving over towards the other bits of the car now and try and narrow it out. Of course, again, they've still got these little flaps on the car where the front wing just starts to coming through. This was designed initially by Mercedes, and then eventually a lot of the teams then decided to copy this design, or you know, not, I wouldn't say necessarily copy, but just sort of take the design and put their own concept onto it. I believe Renault did this as well, and also Racing Point did this as well. I don't think any other teams did it, but I could be wrong. Also as well, they've got this nice little underrake coming in here inside. So if you have a look at the RB15, that's not there. They didn't have this last year. And in fact, you can see how their front wing in general just completely different. You can see how thin it is, and it just looks a lot bigger. You can see how much more connected it is underneath here compared to the RB15, which was a lot looser and didn't really have much in there. Whereas the 16 has got a lot more connection and just looks slightly bigger overall to allow for this little rake piece in here to come on through. So a little fascinating little slot in there, and then this little like S duct thingy in there. I don't know if it's because of the it looks like it's a little step. It sort of smoothened it out a little bit. You can see how on this one it looks nice and smooth, whereas on this one, you know, it sort of pokes up and then, you know, it's a bit wish-wash, to be honest. It's like the step nose format that we said in 2012, but obviously not as extreme. And you can see that it's just a nice smoother line in there compared to the RB16. Or RB15, should I say. The only difference that I can really see on this Red Bull is, in terms of livery, is this bit here. This line on the Aston Martin, if you have a look, this line is slightly longer, and the Aston Martin goes all the way over to the side pod, whereas this one has a little space before it goes to the side pod. And before anyone gets confused, I'm pretty sure you all know it by now, but obviously this is Aston Martin Red Bull Racing. You're thinking, well, Aston Martin are joining Racing Point now. If you didn't realise that already, Aston Martin Red Bull Racing will still be a title sponsor for 2020, and then they will lose that title sponsor in 2021, as Aston Martin will go to its own team then in 2021. So the deal with Aston Martin and Red Bull will still remain until the end of this season. In terms of the side pods and the barge boards, they look very, very similar to last year. You can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rake pieces in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so they've increased by 1 in terms of those little rake pieces by there, which is something to note. They had this little curve piece coming out, and then it connected to the side pod. On this car, it is still there, but they've also just changed these 2 little side components. You can see here how they've got 2 little rakes in here, 2 little pieces by here, and on this one they just had a smooth 1 piece by here, but it sort of, you know, shaped itself out. So a slight little change in there. And then also this piece where you've got My World has also come down a little bit and is a bit taller in length, and then they've got this same little gap here, which Mercedes and also Red Bull had last year, and now Ferrari have implemented that this year. So yeah, a little bit of a change in there for from Red Bull's sake, just on that one. Their mirrors seem to be looking bang on the same. In fact, these mirrors have got mirror covers on them. On this Red Bull, they don't have them. Oh, okay. There's a little change of something they've actually removed, because Ferrari have added the mirror covers this year. Red Bull taking them away. Fair enough, fair enough. I rate all that. Next thing to spot is going to be that they've got another couple of pieces on the floor. You can see here, as the floor on the floor on the side here by the Red Bull, they've got a little couple of mini aero pieces that stick out there on the floor. On the Red Bull from last year, they didn't have anything on the floor there. So just a slight little change in there. And then as we move over towards the rear of the car now, again, you can see that they've got more little bits of design tweaks just again implemented into the floor, and it's slightly different to the one from last year, because you can see they've sort of got a little piece coming through across here and then a couple coming up here. On this one, again, it just looks a little bit more redefined as well. And the last thing that I spotted about the Red Bull, moving on into the RB16 and the 15, was the way that the side pod looked. If you have a look at this one, it looks, you can see how the side pod is implemented via just obviously the lighting gradient and the way that the car just sort of swings in and tightens up on the rear package. You can see how the side pod looks. On this one, it looks more bulked out, which maybe is a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing, but obviously the side pod just looks more inflamed. This looks like, you know, just your average face, and then this looks like someone's face after they've been stung by a bee and have had an allergic reaction to a bee being stung, sting by a bee. So yeah, this is just, I told you guys, I ain't a F1 tech, so I've got to come up with my own stuff, and this is genius. Anyway, you can see here, again, it's still nice and tight towards the rear of the car, same as last year. In fact, I think it might just be, let's zoom out a little bit so I can get them both in shot here. They might just be the same in terms of their overall tightness in the back there. So this one looks like they look a bit about the same. In fact, the RB16 looks like it's a slightly larger package than last year's car in there. and then virtually everything else is the same. Of course, the rear wing is slightly skinnier on this one, because obviously this is Albon's car, and we don't know when this picture was taken. It could have been taken before, any Grand Prix really in particular, and then their rear wing again has stayed the same concept in there. The only main difference, which again you can see as well, is where they've got this little pillar that goes up onto the end plate, obviously activates the DRS. They've had one pillar on it last year. This year they've gone with the double pillar thing. Mercedes did this. They did it to an extreme. I think Ferrari have done this as well with the double pillars. Red Bull have now implemented the double pillar. This double pillar theme is very, very similar to what Mercedes had. And implemented and used. And then they've got this one little small piece then in the middle which opens up the DRS, whereas Red Bull's last year, their pillar connected to the DRS flap opener, whereas this time now they've got a separate opener for the DRS and then two main pillars that just come across to get to the end of the front wing. But anyway, guys, that is going to wrap it up for this video. This is the Red Bull RB16. Like I said, I didn't want to make a video just on the livery, so we decided to play a game of Spot the Difference and see what comes up. But if you have enjoyed the video, though, feel free to drop it a like and subscribe if you're on the around here as well. We've got the Renault launch at 1 PM today, so I'll be uploading that later. And then we've got the McLaren launch on the Thursday, and then we've got AlphaTauri and then Mercedes' official W11 on the Friday. So on the Friday, I'll be making, obviously, the livery change video for the Toro Rosso, the AlphaTauri, which it will be. And then for the Mercedes, I'll probably do a game of Spot the Difference between the W10 and then the W11, because we'll actually be able to officially see the W11 car on Friday. But until then, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care all. Peace.